I want to take up the issue of safety because it's an important one. And certainly there's a lot of very old work about what vitamins and minerals individually can do. And the key word there is individually. As you know, the government spend a lot of time, many agencies spend a lot of time trying to define what acceptable, optimal intakes might look like. Optimal is its own bag of worms, since you have many different health outcomes that you're trying to optimize, and you may have micronutrient requirements that differ for each organ system. But the story is more complicated than that. There are possible negative effects of broad spectrum micronutrient treatments that have been described on cardiovascular health, cancer, all-cause mortality. And in addition, there are now beginning to be questions about whether antioxidants of all things actually work in the wrong direction in terms of the way that the body responds to exercise. So here's a very brief summary of a gigantic literature about possible negative effects of micronutrients. And let me emphasize, much of this work is done with one or two, not a balanced, just one or two micronutrients being stuck into a system. As you can see, the numbers are actually fairly striking. These are not small changes. If you look at the effects of beta-carotene, it makes the 4% increase in all-cause mortality by vitamin E look like a relatively good thing. So we're talking major effects of perturbing a system in a perhaps overly specific way, or we really don't at this point know why. So here's one particular study I want to take a little bit of extra time to present, because it's a very important one when we're thinking about the kind of broad spectrum approach. A very large scale study basically found that micronutrients do not cause cancer but increase the spread of cancer, metastases, and death in the particular case of prostate cancer. Now that's a bit of a surprise. One, that one would have such a clean dissociation between de novo genesis of a cancer and its spread. And it looks as if the micronutrients are in effect feeding the cancer cells in a way that makes them grow, or at least that's a plausible way of thinking about it. Now, for this particular study, these were not loading up on one or two particular nutrients that might conceivably have imbalanced the system. They looked at 3 types of vitamins, and they're kinds that are everywhere in all the stores, all the supermarkets. One a day and stress tabs and the very, very routine kinds of broad spectrum micronutrients that many, many people now use. And in fact, perhaps with some good reason, there actually was finally in the medical literature in a legitimate journal, one called JAMA, the recommendation that it might be okay for Americans to take a multivitamin a day. That came out 2 years ago. Pretty recent stuff. They might have held their breath if they had seen the study that came out at approximately the same time. Now, the thing that's most concerning about this study, although it's plenty concerning enough, is that for people that took their vitamin, their micronutrient once a day, that was not a problem. That did not cause these changes. It was when people took more than 7 pills a week, if they took their micronutrients more than once daily, that you would see these effects. So that's something that all of us need to think through and come to terms with. This is one study, although it's going to be a hard one to replicate. And it's also one cancer. We don't really have the kinds of data that would look at this question across other kind of cancers, and we just don't know. We have to obviously keep our ears up to find out whether this is a more general problem or not. Now, taken in itself, this might seem like that's a gigantic concern. But let me say, why am I, there we go. So how do we deal with this kind of finding? And although there's a very, very strong impulse to put this kind of finding aside and to try to dismiss it, there's another way of approaching it, and that's basically to just be honest about it. We know enough from science and medicine to know that any treatment will have its advantages and disadvantages. They always come up with every new treatment, no matter how clean it may look or how clean it may be theorized to be. And what our task is in the health professions is to accept the reality of both the advantages and the disadvantages of each treatment, and conduct our research and our treatments in a way that finds the most benefit, that balances the kinds of concerns that there might be against the potential advantages that they can have. So for me, for the moment, broad spectrum micronutrient treatments, in my mind at least, would be contraindicated in men with prostate cancer who already have the disease. Very probably in men, older men especially, who have elevated PSAs. And the other key finding in this study, the Lawson study, is that men with a family history of prostate disease were particularly at risk for this micronutrient effect. So one might even think of any older man with a family history of prostate cancer as being one for whom this kind of treatment might be risky. Now, let me just make a quick comment, since I know we have a lot of non-physicians in the audience. Physicians are very familiar with looking at these kinds of studies and being able to do the risk assessment. If you're not used to it and you see a slide like that, it might make your skin jump. It should make you think. But this is not the kind of finding that should do anything other than make you sort of think in the larger context about how advantages and disadvantages of particular treatments operate and how we make decisions legitimately to proceed in the face of things that are genuine worries.